Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Leading Edge Detailing YouTube channel. Today we're going to be covering a very important topic, and I think it is one of the most important topics in detailing. You see it come up all the time on Facebook groups, and that's what happened to my polishing pad? Why did it get damaged? Is it a faulty pad? What did I do that damaged it? And how can I avoid damaging it in the future? And how can I get more life out of my polishing pads? Because believe it or not, polishing pads are to me the most expensive thing in detailing. It is the biggest expense, especially for new detailers or people who are starting out detailing their own cars, because you can damage it very quickly, and once you damage the pad, it just spirals out of control and then gets damaged more and more. So before I get stuck into this video, please click the subscribe button and click the bell icon. That way we are motivated to make more great content. And please comment, like, share this video. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments section and we will get back to you as soon as we can. I try to always reply to everybody. Okay, so let's get stuck straight into this video. But before we talk about the pads themselves, we need to understand how the machine works. Now, a dual action random orbital doesn't just spin in a circular motion, it also oscillates like this. This oscillation, and this repeats 21, means it has 21 millimeters of movement side to side. That movement is called a throw. So your pad is not just spinning in a circular motion, but it is also moving back and forth like this. And depending on how you hold this pad or hold the machine on a car, you can actually damage the paint of the car or the pad itself. So let's zoom in and have a look at these pads and talk about what has caused the damage to them, because that is the best way you're going to learn on how to avoid damaging them. While you're working on a car, you're not just getting the pad spinning, but it's also potentially hitting something. So this particular pad, as you can see, it's been used on a red car, has this kind, come on focus, there we go, has this kind of damage here. So if you're working on a machine and you're seeing that the edges of your pad are being eaten up, sorry, you're working on a car, and you're seeing that the edges of your pad are getting eaten up, but the pad itself is pretty good, that to me is an indication you're hitting something sharp. So you might be polishing the boot of a car, or there is a badge, and I believe for this particular pad, the damage was caused by a badge. So let's take the camera with us, and not saying that you should be polishing this section here with a 5-inch pad, but if you imagine the machine is spinning, the pad is spinning, and it's also doing this, that pad will get eaten up by this badge. So the first thing to avoid, which is very common sense, is avoid polishing around sharp things or mask them up, and don't touch them. That way you don't damage the badge and you don't damage your pad. So again, this pad was used on a car that had single stage red paint. Can't remember exactly what car it was. And by far the most common damage I see, especially on microfiber discs, is this. You see the Velcro start to detach or get ripped up from the foam. This kind of damage is mainly caused when you actually have the wrong angle. So imagine that you're polishing like this and you reach a curve and the machine is trying to not just spin but oscillate, and it's actually hitting the curve. So you have the wrong angle, and that hitting action like this ends up tearing the foam from the Velcro. So this kind of damage is purely based on technique. And again, let's go back to the Volkswagen Golf. Actually, let's go to the Supra. Let's spice it up a little bit. So imagine you're polishing this section here of the Supra, and you have the 3-inch and it's spinning, and then you go this like here, and then you start jamming it into this curve. So as you're jamming in the pad to this curve and the machine is trying to oscillate, it is going to rip the Velcro off. So what I would do in this case is I would obviously mask this up here, and I would polish to the bend, then I would go down and polish up this way. So I'll do this part in two sections, 1 and 2, but a lot of detailers try to jam the pad in to get that curve, and that ends up ripping, come on focus, ripping the Velcro off the foam. So this is the next bit of damage that you need to be careful of, and that is pure technique. If you're getting damage where the Velcro is ripping off the foam, it means you're using the wrong size machine for the area, or you're trying to get an angle that is not suitable for either your skill level or the pad. The next kind of defect or pad damage is something that is not visible from the outside. You can normally feel it. This one you can see it, and I was lucky to find a pad that has this damage. It looks like it's caving in on itself. This kind of damage is caused by heat. So if you are polishing and you're applying too much pressure with the machine, what's going to happen is you're going to start building up heat inside the pad in the middle of the pad. And what ends up happening is the foam structure inside the pad begins to collapse, and you're going to basically get an effect where the pad, as it heats up, begins to bow out. So it's going to actually bow out like this, and it's going to make an interesting sound. It's going to make like a wob, 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 wob sound, and you can tell you have overheated your pad once you start hearing that sound. So if you're polishing and you feel like the pad has just gone too soft, you're running the pad at the slowest speed possible, and it is still not doing much, and it's bowing out, chances are you have overheated that pad. You have pressed too hard when you're polishing, maybe trying to get it into a bad angle again, and that pad is good as thrown out in the bin. So cactus. So this pad, as you can see, it's sort of divoted in the middle because the structure inside it has collapsed. That pad is gone. I'm actually going to try to cut this pad open. I've never cut a pad open, but I'm going to try to cut it open and see what it looks like on the inside. There you go. So I have just cut this pad in half, and what you can see is from the heat, it has basically ripped itself open in the middle. So it had this hollow part right in the middle, and there was no structure. There's basically no foam here. So as you're polishing, if you're trying to polish with this pad, as the machine oscillates, this part is fixed to the backing plate and you're getting movement, and this part is just floating. So you're actually getting no work done. So this pad is pretty much dead. Well, it's dead now that I've cut it open. And the structure of it is completely gone. So going back to these kind of pads with the hole for the alignment, so you get them in the IGL pads and the repairs pads. When you get damage like what I have shown you with that blue pad, it tends to be from in the middle here. So if you put your finger inside and actually try to feel it, sometimes this foam inside is broken up and completely gone, and you can actually put your finger inside it and rip it open. So that is a pure result of heat. So if you're overheating your pad, that's what's going to happen. The reason you get this kind of damage and the reason you overheat it is either if you're pressing too hard, if you are trying to put the pad in an angle that it shouldn't work, or if you're just overusing it. So the best way of avoiding this, other than watching where you're putting the pad, is to have multiple pads and just switch them out. So every few panels, take the pad off the backing plate and get another pad. And that way, by the time you switch pads, you're going to let this pad cool down rather than build up heat. The next kind of damage is when it starts wearing out. So as you can see, this pad is beginning to wear out. It should have a nice straight edge, but instead it's wearing out, starting to fall apart from here as well. This is again as a result of heat and improper angle. So and maybe too much speed. Again, technique, but this is not normal wear and tear for a pad. This is somebody not using it in the right way. So no different to the blue pad, too much pressure, too much angle, trying to put this pad into a curve where it doesn't belong, or doing it improperly. And the final kind of damage that I'm going to cover today in this video is when the microfiber, this is a microfiber disc, loses its hair. So it becomes like no more fiber. This is, I would, in my opinion, say just wear and tear. So it's not something you can really help. It's just this microfiber disc has now come to the end of its life. You can see that on the edges, it still has some fiber, but in the middle, there's almost nothing. This kind of damage is just use, heat, maybe not blowing out your microfiber disc often enough, but this disc is no longer usable in my opinion. So if I'm going to recap on what we just spoke about, pay attention to what size pad you're using on the panel. Don't polish the whole panel as one piece. Break it up into sections and don't cross over from one section to the other without turning the machine off. So don't just go through a curve and just say it's okay, just jam that machine in. Listen to the pad. So if you're hearing that pad wobble and make funny sounds and start to bow out like so, that means that pad is starting to overheat. If you're finding that you have to press harder and harder on that pad, and even though you're running the machine at the slowest speed, it just sounds like the pad's going too fast, that pad's probably on its way out. The best thing I would say is just have multiple pads. I know it's expensive, but have 2 to 3 pads. And after every use, or after every 2 uses, after every few panels, take that pad off, blow it out with compressed air. I tend to not like washing the pads. I think that damages them more, but blow out that pad with compressed air, set it onto your trolley or workbench, get another pad, work with that pad. By the time that pad you're working on heats up, the first pad you used has probably cooled down, and that way you will get a lot more life out of your pads. And just have a few different machines. Use slow speeds, use the right angle, not too much pressure. Be kind to your pads, and your pads will be kind to you. Thank you for tuning in again. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments section or send us an email. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Thank you very much.